In order for us to stand by the claim that we feature the world's finest riding gear, really we have to have Arai in our helmet lineup. So just as well then that we now do for 2020, and just as well that Arai are releasing some fantastic products that are very much up the street of the urban rider for this riding season. So the most prominent item within that lineup is the Arai Rapide, which we are showing you today. This is due to land in the UK tomorrow, so the timing is perfect. And this is a really exciting and interesting lid for us here at Urban Rider. Basically, this is something that Arai see as taking styling inspiration from the 80s, taking that kind of big bore two-stroke sports bike look, but applying all of the winning formula of Arai helmets, all of the safety and technical spec that has made them so successful over the years, to a slightly more retro-inspired looking shell. So this has got to be a win-win, because often we find in our segment, in this slightly more retro style led segment of the motorcycle clothing world, sometimes we get concessions made in the helmets that we show you guys to things like soundproofing, waterproofing, visor seals, and so on and so forth. I can stand here and tell you that unequivocally, the Arai Rapide doesn't take any concessions at all to anything. So this is a helmet that's going to be starting at £450 in the plain colours like we have here, and £529 in some of the graphic colours. And these are both going to be available upon launch. This is not cheap, but this is Arai price, and as anyone that knows Arai, that is really money that is well invested in this brand. So this is going to feature the Arai peripheral banded multi-composite super fibre system that they have in all of their top helmets. So this is to say it's incredibly strong. Arai probably put, I would say, arguably more into the R&D of the quality of their shells than any other brand out there. This helmet comes in at 1,560 grams, which is pretty average. It's not the lightest helmet out there, but when you consider how good this quality of the shell is, it's definitely worth just a few extra grams over something that's maybe a bit lighter, because it also adds as a side effect to things like soundproofing if you're someone that has a noisier bike or goes on longer rides. The visor is really what sets this apart from a lot of the retro helmets in our segment, and just being so high quality. It's a Pinlock Max Vision visor. It has Arai's integrated brow vent systems that you can easily operate when you're going along, and this leads to channels that go through the shell of the helmet, really cleverly keeping you cool without having obvious vents over the majority of the upper part of the shell. This is something, of course, that race helmets feature very prominently. It's part of that look and aesthetic. It's not really something we want to see too much in the retro segment, because you want it to be understated, fairly neutral looking. So really the signature piece about the style to do with the Rapide comes in the form of this slightly squared off jaw guard section, and I think that that looks fantastic. It looks like it'll always be open, but behind here under the chin bar, you do have an open and closure point for that. In terms of the ventilation system as well, you can see around the back three-quarter sections, you have these exit Venturi style vents, which create a back pressure and draw the ventilation through the helmet, through the channels in the EPS liner and out the back, whilst keeping it looking really neat and really stylish. You also, on the lower section of the neck, on the actual liner itself, have another exit vent there too. So the venting is really about as good as you're likely to find on any helmet, but it's integrated so neatly you would expect that actually on first glance perhaps it didn't have any at all. So that's really good. The seal itself is fantastic. As I said, it's Pinlock, and you get that included in the box at the price. It's Pinlock Max Vision. Pinlock, for anyone that doesn't know, is basically double glazing system for your motorcycle helmet visor. And this is, once you've had it, something you can't live without, especially in the UK when you get those cold, damp mornings. Having a visor that constantly fogs up is a pain in the backside. And this is a surefire way of preventing it. They're easily changeable, the actual Pinlock visors themselves. If they do start to fade in their use over quite a substantial amount of time, it had to be said, you can keep living with this for ages and ages. You've also got, as the bottom part on the left side of the visor, you have this little system here, which is just a way of basically cracking it open. So if you're in town and you just want a little bit of ventilation, whether that's to cool you down or whatever the reason might be, you can do that without having to get your thumb caught under the visor and fiddle around with it. There's a nice little lever system to do it there. It then operates normally. It has different ratchet points as you would expect in the upper section of that action, so that you can hold it nicely in place if you do want the visor to be open. You have a little wind deflector here on top of where the nose would be, and also you have this elasticated little chin curtain on the underside as well. This is a helmet that is, by virtue of the fact that it has this double D-ring fastening system and such a very high quality shell, it is ACU approved. So this means it can be used for racing, which is a fantastic feature. And again, something that is very, very rare to find in a helmet that sits more in this kind of retro part of the market. So that's really cool. And we also have masses going on with the liner itself. It's a hypoallergenic, washable, removable interior liner, and we have some really clever systems going on. Arai have a sort of patented facial contour system, they call it, on the cheek pads, which is basically a double contour, and this takes into account the actual shape of someone's face and their jawline, and it fits really, really ergonomically. This sounds obvious, and you would imagine any helmet does that, but it's just not the case. Mostly cheek pads tend to be fairly flat, and you end up getting a really squished sort of hamster cheek effect to achieve a tight fit, and that's not what Arai do. You get a really secure fit, but it doesn't feel overly tight because of the contours and the way that this is operated. It's really clever. It's something they developed for many years over their racing helmets, and it's great to see it infusing into something that is a more sort of retro street inspired practical helmet. We have a removable cheek section as well, as I said, but another great thing about the cheek sections is they can be removed by this emergency quick release. So you have these tabs here. If you're in an accident, God forbid, and you need to have the helmet removed, clearly these are designed to fit you very tightly. If you've got a potential damage to your neck or something really severe like that, then it would be really problematic removing a helmet. So the very best helmets out there, Arai, Shoei, they have these quick release emergency systems, and all you do is you take the tab, and it's clearly indicated as well. So emergency services or somebody like that, they wouldn't need to know this helmet. They would just be able to see that that's the way it works. You just pull this in a downward motion. You have to be a little bit firm, it has to be said, and it comes out, and you can see you've got really quite a thick 25mm cheek pad either side. So adding that extra width by taking both the cheek pads out is going to mean the helmet can be removed without too much obstruction to your head, your neck, and so on, which is a really great thing. These cheek pads as well, if you look underneath the actual cover of them, they have three different sections of foam, and this top little 5mm section, this darker section, can actually be peeled off if you do want to slightly kind of customize the fit, which is really good. It's designed to do that. So rather than you having to buy separate cheek pads and swap them out and really faff about when you buy the helmet, that can be done straight off the bat. And equally across the forehead section on the interior liner, on the top liner, you can do the same with that 5mm grey removable pad if you want to. So whether your head is slightly wider or slightly longer, you can basically customize the fit without having to accessorize and buy different fitting cheek pads or liners. So that's a really well thought through system, and I think that that's fantastic to see. And I'd like to see that in more helmets, to be honest. You do have the channels going through the vents. You have a very nice, comfortable, and fairly universal fitting head shape, it must be said. Arai are pretty much fitting universally out the box, but with the ability to customize, like I mentioned, that adds some degree of flexibility that the other helmets don't have. Looking on the side here, you'll notice as well that we don't have the sort of signature Arai side pods. This is something that until now all their full face helmets have always had, but they basically made a concession here. It's not particularly interesting, but just to remove that, to keep this slightly more retro look going on, and I think it's all the better for it. As I said already, this visor is really high quality. In terms of the accessories available for the Arai Rapide, as you can see here with the Hirotaki Arai yellow colorway, that, by the way, is the founder of the company. That's what the HA stands for. There's a yellow and a blue and a green, I believe, at launch as well in this design. This one has a smoke visor. These come in around about £45–49 and are available. You can get various different tints too, but the one it ships with as standard is just going to be the clear one. So these helmets are very distinctive. There's been a lot of conversation as well, kind of comparing these to the Shoei release, which is also upcoming in the Glamster, which is similar because Arai and Shoei are kind of similar in what they do, and because they've both now released sort of retro helmets. But actually, having spent more time now than when I first saw this at the Milan show in November with the Rapide, it's quite clear there's actually quite a big substantial difference in what the two helmets offer. And there's enough separation, actually, I think there's place for both in the market without it being a simple choice between one or the other. The looks alone are different enough that I think that they will appeal to slightly different riders. If you've got any questions about the Arai Rapide that we have not addressed here, then please leave that in the section below. We think that this will be very popular. It's not the cheapest helmet, but it's a quality Arai helmet, and it's something that will likely prove very popular in our sector. So stay tuned, by the way, for more videos of the 2020 Arai range, which will be shortly available at Urban Rider, and you'll be able to see that via the YouTube channel. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.